Thank you very much once again for joining us. The Bulletin is streaming live on Facebook, and so you can connect with us on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with the handle at GHOne TV. And let's get interactive all throughout the Bulletin. The Dansoman Circuit Court has granted bail to Hopeson Ardoye in the sum of 20,000 Ghana cedis after pleading not guilty to the charge of publication of false news. As part of his bail conditions, the court said he was to produce two sureties, one of whom should be justified. Mr. Ardoye was arrested on Wednesday, May 22, after he said to have confessed to detonating some dynamites in the run-up to the 2016 elections. Now you can see on your screen some videos coming in from the Dansoman Circuit Court where Hopeson Ardoye was taken. Earlier, Hopeson Ardoye had made some claims that he detonated some dynamites in a run-up to the 2016 general elections to try and disrupt the whole process. Now, in the aftermath of this, the police picked him up and he has now been charged with publication of false news. And you can see videos of the scenes from the Dansoman Circuit Court as Hopeson Ardoye was being taken away. We understand now that he has been granted bail, and the bail that he has been granted is in the sum of 20,000 Ghana cedis. Our legal affairs correspondent Mutala Inusa has joined us from the Dansoman Circuit Court to give us some more details. Mutala, welcome to the Bulletin. What more can you report from the courts as far as this case is concerned?
Well, Lantam, like you rightly indicated, Hopeson Ardoye was arraigned here at the Dansoman District Court. In fact, he was actually slapped with one count, publication of false news contrary to provisions in the Criminal Proceedings Act. What has happened here before the court is that he has pleaded not guilty to the count. Lawyers led by Kweku Atakra Jumo, as it were, moved a bail application on his behalf. One of the things that he contended was the fact that if you look at Hopeson Ardoye as a person, he's a businessman, he's a teacher with over 20 years of experience, he has presence with substance, he has the fixed place of abode, he's known. So when granted bail, he's ready to avail himself to stand trial. Prosecution, on the other hand, opposed to the request of bail, he contended that he was arrested yesterday, and in order to stay within the law, to ensure that he is not kept unlawfully, they have brought him to the court for the court to remand him, especially because of the kind of things that he has alleged to have said, especially also so because it was done in an election year, and this year happens to be an election year. So he will be needed by the police to, as it were, help them to arrive at a conclusive so that investigation will come out with what exactly has happened, which will serve as a guide going forward when 2024 elections come to bear. The court looked at the situation, listened to both sides, looked at Article 14 of the 1992 Constitution, where it's talking about the liberty of the accused person. They also look at Section 96 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act, which the parties made references to. And the court said that if you look at what the Supreme Court has dealt with in the celebrated Martin Pebu versus the Attorney General number 2, the court is exercising discretion in favor of Hopeson Ardoye. Subsequently, he was granted bail in a sum of 20,000 Ghana cedis with two sureties. One of the sureties, the court said, should be justified. Prosecution has been given 3 weeks to be able to file disclosure document. And as we speak, the matter has been adjourned to the 26th of June. Lawyers of Hopeson Ardoye, and in fact, all the parties that have to arrive here have, as we were, gone back to the ministry's police station. We understand that the prosecution wants to verify the sureties before, if anything, bail can be executed. But of course, Movement for Change also made their presence here at the court felt. But as we speak, they've made their way back to the ministry police station to check on the sureties that the court have directed. What is clear now is that Hopeson Ardoye has been charged for publication of false news. He has pleaded not guilty, and the court has admitted him to bail in a sum of 20,000 with two sureties, one of whom should be justified.
Were you able to ascertain which notable figures from the Movement for Change were in court in support of Hopeson Ardoye?
I saw the wife of Alan Cash also present here. In fact, it's one of the faces that I could make within the members who have actually gathered here. Of course, Yao Boabian Samoa is part of the legal team. He led the legal team, was also part here. And of course, of the Movement for Change for Ireland, they all amass up here. As we speak, they have made their way back to the ministry's police station to lend support to Hopeson Ardoye, who was in court in a white outfit and would look very calm when the matter was called. He wasn't handcuffed when he was being taken away from the premises of the court. But what I can tell you is that some members of the Movement for Change, they were here. The legal team were heavily represented. Apart from Yao Boabian Samoa, Ken Cranche was also heavily involved there. Then some other lawyers who are part of the legal team in respect of this very case.
Very well, Murtala Inusa, thank you for bringing us that update from the court. You heard from my colleague Murtala Inusa reporting to us from the Dansoman Circuit Court. Well, earlier, leading member of the Movement for Change, Hopeson Ardoye, who has since been granted bail by the Dansoman court, engaged in a verbal confrontation with a police officer when he was being whisked out of the ministry's police station. Members of the pro-Alan Group Movement for Change gathered at the ministry's police station in solidarity with Hopeson Ardoye, who was arrested yesterday by the police over his claim that he detonated dynamites in the Volta region during the 2016 general elections. Mr. Ardoye made the claim during a radio interview in Accra, which has since gone viral.
I'm talking to my lawyer. What is this? I'm talking to my lawyer and then you are preventing me. Please let me talk to my lawyer. What is the meaning of that?
Commenting on the arrest, former Member of Parliament for Adenta and now a leading member of the Movement for Change, Yao Boabian Samoa, said in an interview with GHOne News that the arrest is diversionary and politically motivated.
A matter of publication of false information. You haven't been bold enough to charge him with publication of false information. And yet, at 6 p.m., you say, I must put you behind bars. Why can't you say, go home at 6 p.m., come back tomorrow? Because Hopeson is a known quantity in this country. He's not going to run away anywhere. He's not planning to travel abroad. He's man enough to stand up for his own words. So that's why I'm saying what the police did was sneaky. The police should have been bold enough, but at least they were comfortable enough to tell us that they were waiting for orders from above before they could take decisions, right. Which is not right. Some people look at the SML report that the president has been forced to release, 300 pages of slang. And if you look at what is happening with Stent, obviously the diversion at this time is urgently needed. This is a wildcat. Last night, Mr. Chematin and his wife came to visit Hopeson. You should have seen how overjoyed the inmates were. And yes, he intends to be in court if the law will tell us where they are taking him or what they are doing this morning. As we stand here this morning, we don't know what they intend to do because everything was inconclusive last night. Last night, they told us they were waiting for instructions from above. So they needed to keep him here because it was after 6 p.m. As we are here, we don't know whether the instructions have been detailed to them and that they are supposed to release him or to take him to court. But if they happen to take him to court, Mr. Chematin will be there himself, as he was last night. He came here last night to visit with his wife. And indeed, if you listen closely to the tape, he said whatever he did, he informed the then candidate, who is now the president. But for 8 years, and I've heard him say these things on air a few times during the period when he was a staunch member of the MPP and was speaking for the MPP. Nobody lifted a finger, not the index finger. How come all of a sudden, because he speaks for Movement for Change, it has become criminal? So it's important that we look at the sequencing of events. This smells. This stinks badly, and that's why people speculate it's a diversion.
Scores of members of the Movement for Change marched up at the ministry's police station in solidarity with Hopeson Ardoye, who was whisked away in a police vehicle to the Dansoman Circuit Court.
Well, the KPMG report on the contract between SML and the Ghana Revenue Authority has revealed that the GRA did not receive appropriate approvals from the Public Procurement Authority as well as Parliament before engaging SML in the year 2018. The report also cites GRA for not doing proper needs assessment before contracting SML as well as failing to provide evidence in supporting monthly revenue reports prepared by the Research, Planning and Monitoring Unit detailing revenue losses. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo yesterday released the full KPMG report following public pressure on him to do so after he earlier refused an RTI request from the Media Foundation for West Africa. Now, this KPMG report was released last night, and we had earlier been clamoring, civil society organizations, the media, and other individuals had earlier been clamoring for this KPMG report to be released. Now, this KPMG audit was conducted because SML and GRA entered into a contract to provide revenue assurance services on behalf of the GRA. Now, the Fourth Estate, led by Manasseh Azuri-Awene, did investigations and uncovered that SML-GRA was doing work which was not needed or was being paid huge sums of money for work that was not done. Now, according to the Fourth Estate, further investigations needed to be conducted into this particular matter. And when they visited the premises of SML and in their conversations with SML, the amount of monies that were said to have been saved by SML's revenue assurance was not actually the case. And because of this, the president conducted there to be a full audit. The president contracted KPMG to conduct a full audit into this particular contract between SML, which is Strategic Mobilization Limited, and the Ghana Revenue Authority. Now, in the aftermath of KPMG completing this report, the president issued a white paper on this and talked about sections of the report and gave some recommendations which civil society organizations felt was inadequate. And then there was a further push for the full report to be released. And so the Media Foundation for West Africa, led by Suleiman Abrahima, sent an RTI request to the presidency in order for him to release the full report. This was declined because the president gave reasons, or the presidency gave reasons for declining this request, as it would go against the thought processes when it comes to making decisions. And these are things that should be privy to the president and the president alone and should not come out. And so based on that, the RTI request was denied. But in the aftermath of the denial of the RTI request, the president yesterday had directed that the full report or the full audit conducted by KPMG be released. And yesterday, that report was released. And these are excerpts of the reports that you have been seeing on your screen. Let's stay on this a while longer. Edem Senanu is a member of the Africa Union Board Against Corruption. He's joined us for a conversation on this. Mr. Senanu, welcome to Newsroom here on GHOne Television. You had asked for the full KPMG audit report on SML and GRA to be released. The president has released it. I believe you've looked at it. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, this is very commendable. We're grateful that the president has made it available. It provides a lot of interesting information. I mean, it's stunning to discover that the various engagements, the due processes that should have been followed. PPA was not consulted, Parliament was not consulted, the board was not consulted. You're wondering how these contracts were executed in Ghana with the various legal frameworks we have. So there's a need to look at our systems and how the internal systems, whether for internal audit, for legal, for procurement, the directors involved, how these persons were able to execute these contracts and allow them to be running when they had not followed the due process.
Right. The president had earlier stated that the report contained, opinions and other things which made it difficult for this report to be out because it would go into the thought process and the decision-making process of the president, which was not necessarily good for public consumption. I mean, looking through the reports, did you see anything like that?
No, I didn't find anything that I thought was, except for the embarrassment of all the processes that were not followed, the due diligence that was not done. I mean, I'm just wondering how this was possible in Ghana with the laws we have. It shows a certain level of impunity, a lack of respect for the laws of the land. How you could have 6 contracts, none of them with consultation from PPA, multi-year running without any approval from Parliament. Even the board of GRA was not consulted in the finalization and execution of contracts in 2018, 2019. It's just amazing. I mean, the question is, do we have many more such contracts that are existing? What are the sums of monies involved? How much hemorrhaging are we having of resources that could otherwise, be used for development and help us pay off our debt to the IMF and have our economy back on track? It's extremely worrying.
And as you've seen the contents of the report now moving forward, especially talking about the recommendations that KPMG gave after they had conducted their audit, are you satisfied with the recommendations that were given? And moving forward, what would you want to see happen now that this report is out?
I think that they do a good recommendation when they say, look, just trying to cancel may end up in judgment debts we don't need. So let's have an orderly, renegotiation, rediscussion of these contracts. I think that in the context of the criminality, in terms of not having followed due process, they should be willing to sit at the table, and those that have to be cancelled. I think it's also interesting. I could really not tell that we got any value for money, because at the back of my mind, I was saying, listen, the GRA data was discounted. They focused more on ESLA and MPA, which suggests that the incremental values that they claim we have made may not be the case. And I'm not quite sure whether the report clearly tells us, has the whole negotiation with SNL actually provided an improvement or not? Or should we just focus on our own internal systems? Those who said they could have provided the same monitoring service and gotten good results, how do we strengthen that? I think that some more discussion in that space may be required so that going forward, we can ensure that we get the gains, we get the results that we are looking forward to.
Very well, Edem Senanu, thank you for speaking to us here on Newsroom. Now, one of the 3 journalists who worked on this expose, Evans Aziabo, has joined us for a conversation on this full KPMG audit report released by the presidency. Evans, welcome to the Bulletin. Thank you so much for joining us. This is what you have been calling for. So what is your assessment of the contents of this report as released by the presidency?
There was a need to have the full report so that we interrogate ourselves and make a judgment of the audit that's been made by KPMG. So, for instance, let me mention 2 things. You get to realize that SML has received 1.4 billion cedi as services fee, as compared to the 1 billion that was mentioned by the President White Paper. We also got to know that SML was first SMEL, and the company attempted to secure a contract 3 times, but they were shut down by the PPA for lack of capacity and prior experience. I think that demonstrates the fact that what we encountered during our investigation was indeed true. We also got to know that the volume that SML used as as a benchmark for calculating the revenue growth and all that was not accurate, and that it was higher than what was contained in the SML document that was made available to us. So these are a few preliminary investigations, assessment of the report that was released yesterday.
Right, and looking at some of the recommendations that were given in the KPMG report, what's your own assessment of that, vis-a-vis what the president had earlier? I'm talking about the recommendations that KPMG made in this report because of what they uncovered. If you juxtapose it to the white paper that the president issued, on this, would you say it's in order?
Well, I think that all the things that we got to know from the report, we're hoping, actually, and KPMG gives two options. Either that you cancel the contract and that you won't have to pay any money to SML for no work done, or you renegotiate part of it. And I think that those were contained in the white paper that the president released. And in fact, the president even gave that option to the GRA and the Ministry of Finance, who were the entities that signed the contract with the SML. So I think those recommendations, for me, I think that it was an option that was made available to the president. And so it was left to the president to make a decision, the final call, that indeed, based on these findings and all that, we think that the contract has to be cancelled so that we get value for money from there.
Very well. Thank you very much for speaking to us here on Newsroom. We just heard us speak to Evans Aziamo, who is one of the journalists that worked on the KPMG story, the KPMG SML, the GRA SML story where KPMG has had to conduct an audit. Now, government has finally settled 4 months out of the over 23 months allowance owed nursing trainees. This follows a promise by the Vice President Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to end their Alawa drought. He announced that 177 million cedis will be released for onward payments to clear arrears owed the trainee nurses by Thursday, 16th May 2024. A week after the announcement, government has honored its promise and has cleared 4 months of the amount owed trainees. In a viral video, some nurses were captured praising the Vice President for honoring his promise.
We are breaking the 8, so we are breaking the 8. And our delay is better than our council. Dr. Bawumia, we are voting for you this December. We are voting for you, MPPA, Shirado, Rado. We are breaking the 8. We are breaking the 8. We are breaking the 8.
Some trainee nurses, they're obviously very excited about the fact that 4 months Alawa arrears has been paid into their accounts. But moving on, flag bearer aspirant for the People's National Convention, Bernard Mona, has advised government, especially the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to deal with matters of rural-urban migration rather than adding up to the situation. This comes as the MPP flag bearer assured headquarters, popularly known as KIA, of empowerment by training the KIA in driving, partnership with Ayalolo and the Metro Mass Transit. Now, the fear has been expressed by stakeholders that the move will rather open the gates for mass migration of young girls from northern Ghana. But Deputy Sanitation Minister Amidu Chinia says the government is dealing with migration at the source with agricultural interventions. They all spoke earlier on GH Today.
what you have done is to fertilize and to manure many more to now come into the urban centers because they now know that there is a place to go and sleep. You will not sleep rough on the street. What we could do is that, why? If you go to the northeast, it takes about 80% of the people who are headquarters. So why don't you establish a facility in the northeast area, in the northern region area, before you go to the upper west, which is the third source of this influx, so that people that are here are taken there. They now have a place to stay. They now also are learning a trade there, so that many will now be encouraged to rather move from Accra and the major cities to go up there. But you are putting the facility here. You are attracting more people to the center. That is not solving the problem.
There are many ways you deal with it. The problem you can look at short-term solutions and long-term solutions, because it is a problem that you cannot solve within a day or within even a year. But you have to remedy the situation whilst looking at the long-term solutions. So the influx of people from the north to the south, expecting to have certain opportunities that don't actually exist, and putting their lives in danger, has become a national security threat. And so the government thought it wise to approach it two ways. One is to look at how in the short term you can begin to reduce and transform the people whilst improving conditions in the north, which will be a long-term solution. So that the reasons why they are moving here, if the reasons are reversed, then majority of them will stay in the north.
Well, it's time now to find out what some of your comments are on social media. And Nana Ama Akwa is in the studio with the details. Nanama, what are people saying?
Hi there, Lantam. Well, alongside everything else, food prices also seem to be on the rise. Tomatoes are in the spotlight this week. Let's see what you had to say about this. Amos on Facebook says, this is the serious matter. Now cooking is more expensive. Now everything is basa in the country. When we move along, Selassie adds, Takradi here, 3 small tomatoes is 20 Ghana cedis. Then Ohima says the Agric Ministry should be dissolved. We can't cultivate common tomatoes and rather import, which makes the price expensive. Why? She asks. Then we have Lordina, somebody should send me 100 Ghana cedis. And yes, sir. I'll vote for MPP again. I'm working on my tree there. Then we'll go again. We have Ekia. Epeye, 3 pet is 10 Ghana cedis in my area. We also have Erickson. He says 150 Ghana cedis in Techimai. Then Joseph says, we live in a country where English language is compulsory, but agriculture is optional. Are we crazy? Then Akwe says, there is increase in the prices of everything except the height of a friend I know. Just Apim and earthenware garden egg stew now, 50 plus gone this morning, just for myself. When we move over to X, we have green pepper is now counted 1 by 1. First time witnessing that in my life. The next comment, well, it depends on your location. It's cheap and continues to get cheaper in Ofinso. Then we have Evans, share. New Goldo, in my area, 5 pieces cost 20 Ghana cedis. Then we have Asamoah, 3 for 10 Ghana cedis, but our agriculture minister only knows how to operate a hotel and steal public assets. We also have Semefa, tomatoes now turn Bitcoin. Then we have Josiah, let's not complain. The farmers should also enjoy small. It will get to a time the market women will start begging us to buy. Well, this is what people had to say. There's so many more comments, but unfortunately for time, continue to send us on Instagram, Facebook, and on X, formerly Twitter. My name is Nanama Akwa. Lantam, have you bought tomatoes recently?
I have not bought tomatoes recently, but I can imagine how expensive they will be now when you go to the market with all the complaints people are expressing on our social media platforms. But thank you very much for bringing us the updates. We'll take a short break here. When we return, we've got some more news stories coming your way. This is Newsroom. Stay tuned. You're welcome back to Newsroom here on GHOne Television. It's time for us to bring you business news. Now, the Food and Drugs Authority has developed guidelines for labeling genetically modified food and feed to provide guidance to the food and industry on how such products should be labeled to inform consumers. Now, according to the authority, the introduction of these guidelines will enable consumers to know what their food contains, including the manufacturing date, expiration date, and nutritional value. There's more in the following report.
Though research scientists have reassured Ghanaian markets that genetically modified foods for humans are safe, lead stakeholders continue to increase awareness creation among Ghanaians. The workshop, which is a collaborative one, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology Program for Biosafety Systems, as well as the Food and Drugs Authority, is to educate consumers on the new developed guidelines for labeling genetically modified food and feed in Ghana.
The law that sets up the Food and Drugs Authority, that is the mandate of the Food and Drugs Authority, is to ensure that food that comes to our people, they are safe, and then they are also of quality. So quality means that there are certain attributes that it must have. Whether it is GMO or whether it is conventional feed, the issue is that number one, it is safe. Number two, you will see the name of the product. If it is registered, you will see that it's got a registration application number from the Food and Drugs Authority. So it may be, for example, maybe FDA. If it is maybe a cereal, you will see FDA, CE, followed by some numbers.
A research scientist at the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, Dr. Daniel Osei-Ofusu, highlighted the regulations and penalties for industry players to adhere to.
The act that regulates GMOs in Ghana, the Act 831, which was passed in 2011, contains some offenses. For example, as a scientist, I need to seek approval from the NBA before I can carry out my work. A manufacturer who also imports or uses GMOs that have not yet been approved can also can fall foul of the law, and these penalties are clearly the offences are clearly spelled out in Act 831, and it carries from 5,000 penalty units to 10,000 penalty units.
As part of its social impact programs, leading insurance provider in the country, Star Life Assurance, in partnership with the Ghana Pentecostal Charismatic Council, in marking 2024's Mother's Day, have donated assorted medical supplies to the maternity ward and nursing mothers of the hospitals. Now, the Church of Pentecost Hospital at Medina here in Accra received the items, and there's more in the following report.
In all, a total of 10 mission hospitals across the country have benefited from Star Life and GPCC's Social Corporate Responsibility Impact programs this year. Items including assorted hospital supplies and cash donations were made to settle the bills of all needed nursing mothers at the targeted hospitals to allow for their discharge. Mrs. Simpson Giaji is the head of brand and communications of Star Life and highlighted the rationale behind the gesture.
We picked some occasions like Mother's Day, where we visit a couple of hospitals to kind of donate some items and also see the mothers that we can support financially. So last year, for example, we were at Kolebu, we were at Mother and Child in Kaswa, we were at Kath in Kumasi, and we're at the teaching hospital in Tamale. So this year, because of our partnership with the GPCC, we decided to take our union a step further and then go to churches affiliated to hospitals affiliated to member churches to do this donation.
On his part, the General Secretary of the GPCC, Apostle Emmanuel Tete, said the gesture is in line with the core tenets of the Bible, where the faithfuls are charged to be each other's keeper, both spiritually and physically. He therefore implored interested churches to join the GPCC to benefit from the plethora of advantages that abound in it.
Pentecost Hospital is benefiting because they are part of GPCC. But beyond that, you see, we run training for member churches. It's not every church which is as big as Pentecost or the Apostolic Church or Assemblies of God. There are some churches which are smaller. And so the things they cannot do because of their size, being part of GPCC, they can benefit from it. Capacity building, for example, or when they have challenges.
Receiving the donation on behalf of the facility, Dr. Emmanuel Kafui expressed gratitude to the donors for their kind gesture, saying the items will go a long way in helping deliver quality health care to the patients and also relieve the burden on nursing mothers who are in a dire need to settle their bills.
I want to say a big thank you to Star Life Assurance for thinking of us, thinking of our mothers, and coming to support us. It's not an easy process. Our mothers struggle a lot, and the fact that you're able to think about us and even coming to make the donations to them, it shows that they're a very reputable company. We hope that this relationship will continue. They'll continue to think about our mothers and also continue to support the community. We'll find ways of which we can make the relationship two ways, and then this relationship will last forever.
The Star Life GPCC partnership hints at delivering other human-centered impact programs in the coming years as a way of building an inclusive society without leaving anyone behind.
Well, in other news, 750 Liberian nationals have been relocated back to their home country, Liberia, by the Liberian Embassy and the government of Ghana following the demolition of their homes at the Liberia camp in Budumburam here in the central region of Ghana. Now, GHOne News understands that over 6,000 Liberians are currently residing at Budumburam, with the first batch of 750 evacuated. Plans are in motion to relocate another batch next week. Some of the Liberian nationals who spoke to the news team expressed excitement, while others expressed their disappointment at how their houses were demolished. Meanwhile, the leader of the Liberian nationals, Dennis GHOne, said they are somehow disappointed in the government of Ghana and the Ghana Police Service for not coming to their aid at the time their houses were being demolished.
That our people going back home, and at least they are going back with dignity. Not like what's happened to them here. So we are grateful to the government of Liberia with the cooperation of the government of Ghana. So as you can see, our people are going home happily. Per the statistics that I have, we have 770 persons that are going. And by next week, another group will be going. By following week, another group will be going. But 3 trips. These are people that were living here. These are people the chief of Goma Federal made homeless. These are people the land got beat in the street, looted their zinc, selling without intervention of any Ghana police. But today, see that police are giving an escort.
Well, a Kenyan mountaineer who went missing near the summit of Mount Everest has been found dead. Now, 40-year-old Joshua Kirui and his Nepali guide, who is 44 years old, disappeared on Wednesday while attempting to summit Everest without supplementary oxygen. The guide is yet to be found by the search team that had been deployed to locate the pair. Climbing Everest which is the world's highest peak, is considered extremely difficult and risky, even for experienced climbers. The Nepalese newspaper, the Himalayan Times, quoted Mr. Sherpa informing the base camp that Mr. Kirui had showed abnormal behavior and refused to return and even consume bottled oxygen. Base camp officials said contact with the duo was lost shortly after the message. Mr. Kirui's death is the 4th recorded on Everest this week. Well, that's it for news from here on GH1 Television. Thanks for watching. For more news, log on to starfm.com.gh. My name is Lantam Papanko. Have a good day.